Hi, so I just wanted to come with a really quick video basically dissecting the new right. So this is actually from a comment that was left on my Facebook where I talked about Curtis Yarvin and the Overton window and basically his New York Times podcast. So this commenter said that, Curtis Yarvin is the foundation of the MAGA movement. Not so fast. That is actually false. So what I explained in this comment was that while the new right has the same goals, which is like a dismantling of the federal government that we're seeing, their motivations are actually very different. So MAGA, as it started, was actually a grassroots movement that was mainly adopted by the working class. Sorry, as I was saying, the MAGA movement was really born out of a grassroots movement, and it's basically a revival of the Tea Party movement. So it was really aimed towards working class whites that were left behind with the technology era and in the 21st century. So the reason why MAGA and the new right have formed a coalition is because of, like I said, they want to both get rid of the federal government. But the reasons MAGA wants to get rid of it is because MAGA doesn't think the federal government is quite serving them. They feel that a lot of their people have been left behind. And it's true. We have left behind working class people in this world. We told a lot of people that they need to go out and get these educations. And if they can't, for whatever reason, be it because of their own intellectual limits or because of money, that was a deficit on their end, which is a wrong thing to do. So a lot of MAGA is against the federal government because they think that this deep state, which they see as this kind of nefarious being, but really in reality it's just like your typical Fed worker, they see these people as holding back their progress in this country. Some of their regulations led to the death of industries that serve those communities, and that's why MAGA wants to get rid of them. Additionally, MAGA has already been primed because of, working class, typically white people are disinterested in the federal government because they do think it gives unfair advantage to minority groups, mainly blacks and women. Federal workers now are under siege, and people are saying crazy things such as federal work is not real work. Well, we all know that it is real work, but the reason why they can get away with that is because historically federal jobs have disproportionately hired African Americans, and the reason why is because the private sector hasn't always been beholden to EEOC or equal opportunity hiring, but the feds are. So that's the reason why MAGA wants to get rid of the federal government. They don't think it's serving their interests as working class whites. They feel that they've been left behind. And all of these, in my opinion, are actually legitimate concerns. And because the working class, most people in this country are working class, even working class blacks and Hispanics are feeling that push and have even joined the MAGA movement. However, the Curtis Yarvings, the Peter Thiels, and by extension, J.D. Vance, although he's a special case because he did come from what is essentially the MAGA base of left behind working class or low class whites, but he has ascended through his education at Yale and being basically groomed into a position of power by Peter Thiel. But the new right, as far as the technocracy is concerned, the interesting thing is they want to get rid of the federal government, but it's not because they don't feel it's serving American citizens. If anything, these people think the federal government over advocates for people. Sorry, let me start that again. So the reason why technocrats are distrustful of the federal government is actually for the opposite reasons of MAGA. So the problem is the technocrats, and what they're not saying, but anyone that has worked in these industries knows, is that a lot of these people don't like the federal government because they feel it overly advocates and overly protects and overly makes laws in favor or to shield people that they feel have low or little productive value. So people that are poor, people that are unintelligent, and people who are and or undereducated. So that is why the Peter Thiels and all of these people don't like the federal government, because they prevent them to exercise whatever will that they want in the private sector that could potentially do harm to those who are working class. But where they come together is that these technocrats know that the numbers are not on their side. The ruling class, by definition, is small in number, but they've latched onto MAGA and now are LARPing as MAGA because they say, hey, if we can get these MAGA working class people that have all of the numbers, have them turn against the federal government and co-sign its gutting in effect, we can still get our ends met. But the thing is, MAGA people are, they're so focused on the owning and the gutting of the deep state, which is really just regular federal workers, that they're not seeing the larger play, which is a lot of these people, these technocrats, the Musks, the Teals, and JD Vance by extension, want to see the cut down of this system so that they can advance their own technocratic goals, not to help working class people. And the thing that is so crazy about this is that now that JD Vance is in position, basically they can use him as cover and say, oh, well, look, we have this vice president that is now trying to be very active, who comes from basically what is essentially the MAGA base of working class, disenfranchised, left behind white male. And he has ascended to this technocrat light status. So, oh, how can we be against the working class when we propped up someone that came from that background? And since he can speak that language, MAGA will be more trusting of him, despite the fact that he did marry a first-generation Indian immigrant, and even said in his own biography that people in Appalachia tend to be distrustful and kind of uneducated. So you can see why many people that make it out of Appalachia will opt for something else. Ooh, bet you didn't know that. But regardless, they'll buy that because he is the face and he is the embodiment of a white man that made it out, and they think he's there to do his bidding when it's not true. He's there to do Peter Thiel's bidding. So in summary, the reasons why these groups came together is because they both do want to see a dismantlement of the federal government and the quote-unquote deep state, but it's for very different reasons. The technocrats in socially and politically actually despise a lot of the people that comprise the MAGA base. They think people that are uneducated, poor, and basically of low productive value, meaning they don't have a job that fits into the 21st century, working in tech, medicine, STEM, or like some of these professional managerial class jobs, like a reporter for the New York Times or something like that. They feel that these people do not really have a place in society, and society, the federal government, is overly protective of them and overly caters to them. So that's why they want to see an end to the federal government, whereas MAGA wants to see an end of it because they feel like the federal government doesn't advocate for them enough. Okay, I hope that helps.